Also appreciate the folks who are just now tuning in to our social media streams, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and X. So appreciate you checking in with us on this Wednesday, June the 11th. Lots to get to, and you'll see what I mean as we get to the later part when we'll bring in our sports anchor reporter, Dusty Baker, because as much as, we love to talk sports, we also talk about stories that are, we see the impact from the surface level and how that's going to play out that will impact greater Kentuckiana from Louisville and how that's going to spread out across Kentucky. To that point, I was out at a story at around, let's say, 4 o'clock this afternoon, and that was the big announcement revelation from Norton Healthcare Systems that they're going to invest a massive amount of money to build out a village campus, brand new research facilities, and those will be out in phases. But the vision, of course, is going to be for what they're calling their second dedicated pediatric hospital. I want to show you a bit of those images if we can. And we're able to get a bird's eye view thanks to our Wave News and Wave Now drone team. So here we're take a look. This was the view from right off of Tucker Station Road. So picture where this is going to be in Jeffersontown, that Norton Healthcare is going to build all this stuff out. You see part of what that children's hospital could look like. These are renderings. Credit to Norton for sharing with those with us. So what you're seeing here is, in essence, a holistic wellness approach. And you see in the map here how it's all going to look right across this junction around Tucker Station Road in Jeffersontown. The center of that, what we were able to witness and visit today, generally just a barren patch of grass for the moment, but it's going to be the state-of-the-art facility that CEO Russ Cox is going to call, quote, a national destination for life-saving care. And that we witnessed CEO Cox and Governor Andy Beshear echo that it's about getting more access to kids who need this kind of special care for more complicated conditions. Again, the first phase in a multi-million-dollar village. And all this to say, the CEO, Russell Cox, mentioned that for as much money as they're going to devote to building this second children's hospital, it doesn't mean that they would diminish or ignore the standards that they've upheld at their current downtown children's hospital. A lot of support you'll hear from tonight from a family who obviously benefited from kind of specialized care, a local Louisville family that wanted to stay. And the specialists there were able to convince them that they were going to be able to help their little girl with her congenital heart condition. And ultimately they did. They're elated to see that the same kind of care could be given to so many more children across Kentucky and southern Indiana. So the phrases we heard them discuss at this event out in Jeffersontown over the course of the hour, phrases like state-of-the-art and multidisciplinary destination to bring in the best and brightest doctors. You see some of those images referring to a walkable community. You would see the space that not only would people be there to take care for children as they're going through medical treatment, but if families wanted to stay put on the facility, on the campus, they could do so and feel like they could go step outside of nature, enjoy fresh sunlight, sort of a point they really did stress time and time again. And picture when we see all this, it would be 150 acres by the intersection of I-64 and the Gene Snyder once it's all said and done. We don't yet know the exact timeline. And as that all plays out, just what the price tag is going to be, we'll, of course, update that to you. I want to play you a bit of what Governor Andy Beshear had to tell the crowd about his support for this massive new investment coming from Norton Healthcare.
I believe that healthcare is a basic human right. So on this campus, kids are going to get the world-class care they deserve, the top care that they could find anywhere in the country. Our doctors, our scientists are going to take research and innovation to an entirely new level. And we're going to build one of, if not the largest, pediatric health campuses in the country right here in Jeffersontown. Now, I might get in a little trouble with Russ because he didn't necessarily share a lot of numbers, and I'm going to share a few. See, we've looked at the project. We've seen the projections, and I'm here to tell you that we believe there will be well over 1,000 individuals eventually working on this campus. That makes this the largest jobs announcement thus far this year. So Mayor Pike, to the City Council, congratulations to Jeffersontown, to J-Town. When we look at the projections, and I know there'll be a lot of partners, a lot of groups, a lot of different folks bringing investment, we believe there's going to be well over $1 billion invested on this acreage. So this year's Derby might already be over, but we are still on a heck of a win streak. Do you think about what's happened in these last 5.5 years? It has been state changing for us. A record $35 billion in new private sector investment, a record 60,500 new jobs. And those jobs and the services they provide are reaching every single part of this state. And this is going to be yet another service that no one will ever have to leave this Commonwealth to secure the very best for their children. I think about bringing health care to all parts of Kentucky because people deserve to be able to see their doctor and a specialist where they live. I think about the fact that we opened 2 pediatric autism centers in Appalachia. And then I think about the fact that last November, Corinza cut that ribbon on Norton West Louisville Hospital. Yes, the first hospital in West Louisville in 150 years, but also that's bringing 350 jobs to those neighborhoods. And one of the things I'm so excited about here is their listening session and bringing in the right type of leaders. I think about Corinza Townsend and what she has brought to that hospital, to its development. She is a force of nature, and we're really grateful for her leadership in this Commonwealth. So now, Norton's back at the starting line, announcing yet another game-changing investment, one that will transform pediatric health care in the Commonwealth. That's because when it comes to protecting our children, Kentuckians don't wait to follow others, we lead. As a parent, I can tell you that no one ever wants to have to take their child to a children's hospital. But when you do, you want the very best. You want peace of mind knowing your family is getting the best care possible. That's what they'll receive on this campus. And you want the relief knowing that you have options, depending on where you live and depending on what treatment your child needs. Now families in this region will have access to not one, but 2 freestanding children's hospitals, Norton Children's downtown and this new facility right here. It'll provide space for additional patients because sadly, we've got more pediatric patients now, and each one of them deserves the very best. It's also going to provide for more specialists, like those treating anxiety and ADHD, heart disease, childhood cancer, and more. That's where Norton is stepping in to meet our children's needs. Just last month, I was with Russ as we helped lead the battle against pediatric cancer. We awarded just under $1 million to Norton Children's Cancer Institute for a new family resource and survivorship center. Folks, cancer is the leading cause of death among our children. And we're losing far too many of them before they ever get the chance to live out their childhood, much less go into adulthood. On top of that, medical debt is the #1 cause of bankruptcy in the country.
So there you're hearing from Governor Andy Beshear, just an extended comment on the value of offering more access with this second dedicated pediatric hospital that, you know, he and the other leaders there were hoping not only would serve Louisville-based families, but provide that magnet or that sense of comfort, familiarity to families who might be looking to not go too far away should they ever need the sort of specialized continued care that their kids, you know, may need medically speaking. Right now, I want to play you an extra additional sound. It's another longer piece, comment on the investment. This is from Norton Healthcare CEO Russ Cox. We'll play that right here.
I'm proud to officially announce the development of a second dedicated pediatric hospital to be built on this very field where we sit and stand. You know, this isn't just another building. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to reimagine how we deliver care to children and families. This hospital is going to be a full service facility that'll include an emergency department, surgical suites, diagnostics, and subspecialty care. Now, let's talk about something too overlooked: behavioral health. More children than ever are facing anxiety, depression, trauma, and other mental health challenges. We will invest in child and adolescent behavioral health services that are integrated, that are accessible, and compassionate, because healing's not just about the body. It's about the mind and the heart too, and especially when you talk about our youngest patients. This hospital will be part of the first phase of a new Norton Children's Pediatric Medical Campus. Think of this as a village where barriers are broken, where care is transformed, and where families have everything they need while their child is being cared for. We're going to be designing a space that spans more than 150 acres, that recognizes children should never face illness alone. Families are part of every diagnosis, and they need to be part of every recovery. This map shows you what the campus could look like once complete. In addition to the new pediatric hospital, a newly designed space for advanced research will be on this campus. An innovative building to support our academic partnership with the University of Louisville School of Medicine, and enough space to make sure a family's needs are met while their child is with us at Norton Children's. This will be a place for the whole family, with spaces and services that meet emotional, mental, and physical needs. I promise you, it's going to be a state-of-the-art, multidisciplinary destination for pediatric care, unlike anything Kentucky or this region has ever seen. Take a look at what we're talking about. These images show what this village could look and feel like. It's going to be a walkable community where you can park and never have to leave the campus if you don't want to. With the scenic green space maintained, this will be a healing environment with views of nature. Natural light is part of the healing process. Boy, did we learn that with Norton West Louisville Hospital. It's so important. And we know the importance of floor-to-ceiling windows in the care setting. This village, if you will, of care will unite the most advanced medical technology with the top minds in pediatric medicine, and deeply compassionate family-centered services, all right here in one place. And it's going to serve everyone. Whether your child is from J-Town right here, or whether they're from Juneau, Alaska, this campus will answer that phone call and we'll take care of your child. We envision this as a national destination for pediatric research, where groundbreaking discoveries happen and new therapies can be developed. A place that recruits the next generation of pediatric experts and pushes the boundaries of what's possible. We're going to challenge ourselves, and we want you to challenge us to be innovative, to be the absolute best in pediatric care, not just in Kentucky, but in the country. And we're going to do it all right here in the Commonwealth. Stop watching those commercials about other states and their children in the hospital. Right here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. That ought to get a round of applause. Look, let me be clear. This hospital is not, repeat with me, not replacing our downtown hospital. Hear it again. Not replacing our downtown hospital. It's expanding on it. The way you increase access is not to close things, it's to keep things open and build more. That's how you build access. So, get the talking point right. We're growing, not moving. Now, Norton Children's Downtown is here to stay, and we're going to continue to invest in it. It's an important part of our community, and when we talk about access, we put money where our mouth is. And we talk about the entire city needing to be and having a level playing field around access. So that's how we're going to do that. We know access to care remains a challenge, but we also know that where there's a challenge, there's opportunity. And that access problem is throughout our state. We want to make sure that we're able to provide that access, not just for our state, but for the entire region. That's why this new campus is going to serve as a beacon of hope for all 120 counties in Kentucky. By golly, a child in Bowling Green with a complex neurological disorder is going to be able to receive seamless inpatient and outpatient care. The teenager in Louisville battling cancer is going to be able to enroll in cutting-edge clinical trials without needing to travel across the country.
So thanks for sticking with us here on Wave Extra. I wanted to shout out a couple of commenters, Chris and Kent, who commented on Facebook. Chris asking if this location for the new pediatric hospital is going to be behind the main event that is out in J-Town. Kent confirming yes. What I wanted to zoom in on was if you could see the patch where I'm moving my mouse, and it for just reference to get yourself situated, the Papa John's headquarters, not too far away. In fact, around the other side of the block, because if we zoom in, you see where Tucker Station Road is. And coming off Bluegrass Parkway, what we did, if you're following the mouse, is kind of you keep going, you head a little further in, and this patch of grass right here, this is where we were for the event. No tent to speak of right there, or a hot air balloon blown up. But this site seems to be the plan for building the new pediatric hospital. If I can pull up the video that we played earlier so you can get the bird's eye view. And I'm going to scrub it to where we sort of can see that part. I'm going to pause it. So let's switch between what you can see. I'm going to cut through the different feeds. So this right there, the Children's Hospital. And if we zoom out to kind of see the shape of it all in this part of Jeffersontown, where Tucker Station kind of turns into Pope Lick Road. Let's cut that to see the difference comp size. You can see the shape of where that is going to play out. So yes, to answer Chris and Kent's question, that is where we'll see it once it plays out, and we'll find out a timeline of when they break ground. We don't yet know what that's going to be or what the final price tag is, depending on how fast or how expedient they are in getting all of this done. So I wanted to show you all that. All right, much more coming up on Wave Extra. We're going to take a quick commercial break and be right back. So stick with us. All right, thanks for sticking with us here on Wave Extra. Coming up on 827, Jose Sosadia leading you if you're joining us now on our Wave Now platforms and on socials. So what I'm showing you now is an issue, I'm sure, for parents of JCPS kiddos. Comment about a proposal that, obviously changes your morning routines depending on what age they are. And so we wanted to reach out. The key question in this text post we have on Facebook, it's a sound off. So how do you feel about potential changes to JCPS's school start times in the 26-27 school year? So that was the update we talked about in several stories throughout the afternoon heading into the evening. Important to distinguish that this is not for the upcoming school year or 25-26. This is just something that the board is considering heading into the following one, and particularly referencing what they point to as research for high school students to sort of push that to later start times for their day, which they point to that research being more beneficial. But in essence, what we wanted to get was your reaction to just having to deal with it all. So a mix of reactions you can see on Facebook, 75 ranging in emotions, but look at the 200 plus comments. So definitely some perspective to share, to say the least. So you get opinions and experiences from people like Meredith, to an elementary school teacher, perhaps looking forward to that change. Whereas someone like Alicia in her position saying kids starting school at 9:40 for her in her situation, saying that's too late. And it's sort of an issue where you're going to want your board leaders, wherever your respective district is, perhaps teachers, how they feel about making that decision to try and weigh the best outcomes for each age range for the kids. And so we've got perhaps some like Mark Doran, maybe not looking so much into the studies versus just what education is. And then folks like Daniel, you see changes are inevitable with new leadership coming aboard, and that new leadership perhaps referring also as well to Dr. H. Brian Yearwood, who in less than a month, in theory, Dr. Polio's last day is going to be, heading into July 1st. And then you step in with Dr. Yearwood, who, by the way, we've reached out to, hoping to sit down with him for a longer form conversation on his priorities, his approach, relationship with the board, and what he's hoping to accomplish in the short term. Just want to let you all know we did reach out for comment from some other groups, that are stakeholders in all this. That would be the JCTA. I reached out to comment to the president. No comment from them at this particular juncture to see how the decision might play out as far as JCPS's board is concerned. So again, differences, a wide swath and on the spectrum of opinions there, but certainly something that we know that you care about. So we will follow that as the vote comes in, of course. All right, so what we're going to do now is take another short break because we're going to bring in our sports anchor reporter, Dusty Baker. A lot to discuss, especially if you're a Cards fan or just hoping to support local teams in the thick of the action. So we're going to take a quick break. Stay with us. Hey everyone, welcome back to this next segment on Wave Extra. Always happy to see our sports anchor and reporter Dusty Baker checking in with us. Dusty, a busy night for him because obviously a lot to look forward to. We're going to obviously touch on a local game happening with perhaps a slowly but surely developing rivalry, you might say.
Sure.
I don't know what history you might tell us the Cards and the Beavers have, Dusty.
Right.
But all those eyes when we're going to be focusing on what's happening on the baseball diamond in Omaha, Louisville, facing Oregon State, first game on Friday night. I know you're excited. I guess talking to coach, players, fans, everything you've been gathering together, what's something that's on your mind that you're going to pay attention to?
Well, I mean, first of all, this ride has been remarkable. A lot of people going into the college playoffs, if you will, we call them the regionals and then the super regionals, but it's the postseason, right? The college postseason. I don't think a lot of people expected Louisville to make it out of that Nashville regional. I mean, you have the number one ranked team heading into the tournament. Hosting, it's hard to win on the road. The Cards really weren't all that great on the road as well. And then here we are, and they're taking down the number one team and doing it effectively with pitching, which is another thing that I think a lot of people didn't expect. The Cards pitching was rather inconsistent through a lot of the regular season. And of course, in conference play, they went 15-15. They were an early exit in the ACC tournament. So naturally, it seems like they just caught fire at the right time. And when they're facing off against a team like Oregon State that has been hot all season long, you're talking about a team that hosted a regional for a reason, hosted a super regional for a reason, took down a really talented Florida State team in that super regional, obviously coming out of the ACC that had more success than the Cards. And the regular season, it has you pause for a second and think, well, here's another matchup that's going to be very difficult. But the Cards have proven that they can match up with anybody. And I think if you looked at that Miami series, that was a team that was chippy. I think that they were one of those teams that kind of found clutch hits at the right time. They fouled off a lot of pitches. They had very tough, deep at-bats. That team did not go away easily. As you saw, it had to go to a game 3. The Cards had to eke that one out. Cards fans shouldn't expect anything from this run. And what I mean by that is keep your expectations where they've been, because look what's happened. If you don't keep them super razor thin or super high, if you just leave it right in the middle and let them play accordingly, keep the pressure off of them, look what they're able to do. Eddie King Jr. is now a household name thanks to 2 weeks of effort. And, we knew Eddie King Jr., who he was, for those that have watched U of L, but so many people, their first time watching the Cards was this past week. And so, I've gotten texts from a lot of people from across the country like, wow, this Eddie King Jr. kid's really good. Yeah, we knew that. we knew that all along. But I do think that it's very interesting when you get to this stage and you have all eyes on you. And the Cards have proven numerous times with their backs against the wall in front of a national stage that they can execute. And there's no bias for me over here, honestly. Like, I'm used to watching the Frogs make it off and on to the College World Series. They were just there a couple of years ago. And it's kind of the same mentality with that program that, the hope and expectations to get there. But when you get to the College World Series, you're talking about 8 teams that have had the same storyline of getting here.
They've all run their own different gauntlets to some degree. And to your point about the Frogs, Gators, linchpin programs with proven histories going into the super regionals. And sometimes, perhaps to your point, Dusty, that you just catch fire at the right time. I wonder if you think Coach McDonald, he's been consistent through all of this, giving credit where credit is due to his seniors. And I got to tell you something too, even in low scoring games, when a bullpen is going to matter in games and situations like this.
Absolutely. And to that point, the bullpen has stepped up. McDonald, he talked for a while in the post-game presser on Sunday. And it was probably one of the greatest press conferences I've ever been a part of as far as what the coach was actually saying. Because so many times we get coach speak where it's, we just have to go out there and execute, blah, 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 blah. McDonald doesn't speak necessarily like that.
You don't think it's platitudes from him?
No, this man comes out and he tells you what he believes and what's real. And he came out on that press conference and he first of all said, we feel like we had a chip on our shoulder because we were robbed of being able to be in this last year. And how many coaches really come out and say that? Not many say that. And for a classy coach like Coach McDonald, those words mean something because you could tell he was frustrated by kind of these years of maybe not meeting the standard, which is the standard's Omaha. I mean, and he won't tell you that. He'll tell you that the standard is making sure these kids are happy and performing and executing. But there's literally the room that we do the press conferences in. It is the Omaha room. And there's a picture of each of the appearances U of L has made on every wall within the room. So these players, that's their meeting room. They see it every day. They see Omaha every day.
I almost would equate that to sort of how Notre Dame football has that poster every time they walk out of the tunnel, right, Dusty?
Yes.
Play like a champion.
Play like a
It's
champion
almost like
today.
that's the motto and the standard.
And that's what you have to do as a coach, is you have to set that standard. I also gained, I mean, I've always had respect for Coach McDonald, but the level of respect that I have for him based off some of his honesty, and if you go to my Twitter account and you go to Wave's Twitter account, you'll see he had a soundbite. He had a good 5-minute soundbite that has really blown up. And it's because he talked about his faith. He talked about how, he spent like 159 days. I assume this number has changed to like 163 since this. He spent like 163 days in the Bible, and that just like really helped him personally and helped his motivation, helped get him out of what was a valley, as he considered it, because he had been frustrated. He had been hearing about people saying, calling for his head in this job, and that he hasn't been living up to the standard, which, by the way, in a program he built. And now he gets these guys back to Omaha. All of a sudden, he's the greatest person in the world. And it's like, this guy took kind of a beating as far as people were calling for his head. His job wasn't secure.
Yeah.
And here we are now. And so he, we forget that coaches are beyond people. They're supposed to be there as leaders and inspire this younger generation. And that's absolutely what McDonald does. So he came out in that press conference, and as I mentioned, check it out on Twitter. His sound bites, they were truly from the heart. They were incredibly real, impactful. Some of the best things personally that I've ever heard as a coach. And I mean, he spoke from the heart of a man of faith. And I thought that was super impressive. And just, a lot of people don't have necessarily the guts maybe to come out and say that. As I mentioned, there's coach speak, right? And in this side of the job for us, we get a lot of coach speak. We get a lot of, well, here's a formality and let's stick to it. Game
plan, strategy, execution, the jargon, which, we hear all the time.
Right.
And if you play the sport, obviously, you know what they're saying. But it's sometimes you're struggling to break through to connect, I guess, on a more personal level. And it's not about breaking down, the wall between us asking them questions about the performance.
Right.
It's a standard, and it's sort of what our relationship was going to be. But it's never to put them in an awkward position. It's just to say, like, the floor is yours.
Yeah. And that's honestly, like Dan said, it would behoove me with this platform that I've now been given. Like, why would I not use this in the way that I believe it should be? And so I thought that was, it like brought tears to my eyes, man. And in those press conferences, you got to keep a level head. But the way that man spoke straight from the heart about his faith, his team, his struggles, his way that he's maneuvered around that, it just could not have been more real. So whether you're a Cards fan or not, it's hard not to root for a guy like Dan McDonald, just because of the person that he is, the human being that he is, the leader that he is. It's very clear that his impact has been felt on the organization and beyond the organization. And so really impressed by what he's done. And then you talked about bullpen, you talked about these faces coming in. I think it's really important to mention that, because this team, while we could talk about Eddie King Jr. all day,
who's earned his flowers
big time, and rightfully so. He's clearly the face of this team. And there's graphics coming out now where it's like Eddie's holding Omaha. Like it's pretty cool to watch that. But it would also kind of be a disservice if we didn't talk about the stars on this team that go beyond Eddie. You're talking about the freshmen on this team, like Tate Davis at first base, makes an incredible play. And
dude was a gymnast in another life. With the way he picks those throws off to first.
Incredible. And his reach, his stretch is insane. Ethan Eberle on the hill, able to shut it down against Miami for the most part. Had pretty much one bad pitch all game, and Miami made him pay for it. That's really hard to do. He went out there and he shoved for 5+ innings. And then Jake Schweitzer comes in, freshman, straight out of Trinity High School. And kid is meeting the moment, has bases loaded, gets a chopper back to him, and then you get tagged to finish that play. And you get all these little pieces. Then you get Hott that comes up to the plate, and he grounds what you think would do a double play, beats it out, cashes in the tying run. It's moments like that that define a game. Zion Rose steps up, and he delivers an RBI double against Miami in the clutch. There are pieces to this team where the puzzle wouldn't be complete unless you had all of these pieces coming together. And I think that is the most important thing, because people too many times look at baseball the wrong way. And that's how I view it differently than other sports.
Well, think about how, I don't know if you equate sort of, the motion in offenses where you have a game like football, basketball, and soccer. Think about how pressure falls on individual players determined on what, almost like a game of dominoes, right? Very much the domino effect of like,
no doubt,
a pitcher can do everything he can from the mound, but as soon as the batter makes contact, it's every other player, including the pitcher.
Yeah.
How are we going to react? How are we going to react?
And it is a domino effect, because oftentimes if you have let's say you have nobody on, nobody out, the difference between one down and nobody on versus, lead off walk, get on base. All of a sudden you're creating pressure on base. And the pitcher now has to think about, is this kid going to steal? What's going to happen if this ball is hit to the right side? Am I going to have to cover first, or am I going to second? I mean, there's so many elements, and the mentality changes dramatically. And so guys like Alex Alicea at the bottom of the order that, ropes a double, all of a sudden top of the order comes around, Lucas Moore is there. Those guys play a role on this team. And it's not just sitting back and letting Eddie King Jr. do his thing. A big reason why Eddie King Jr. has been so productive, notice none of these are really solo home runs that he's hitting. There are guys on base creating pressure and putting Eddie in great situations.
I can think of the Lucas Moores who are always going to be that threat at the top of the lineup.
Yes.
Even if I could see sometimes with the stat line, maybe an over 3 game up at some point, but when it comes time to, he's patient, draws the walk. You've seen these pitchers in the super regionals and even before. They're afraid.
Yes, they are.
They're afraid.
They don't want to go anywhere in the zone. I haven't even mentioned Jake Monroe. 3 home runs in essentially 3 days, right?
Weekend of his life. Yeah,
that was insane. And his moments, he took full advantage of it. His pop showed up in a big way. I'm very curious to see how this lineup will do as they face an Oregon State team that, as far as pitching is concerned, that was maybe more of the weakness leading up to this. Their offense, Oregon State is going to score runs. I mean, Louisville fans don't expect the same result as far as what you saw with pitching leading up to this point. Oregon State will put pressure on this team. If Louisville with Forbes is able to shut them down, I would say the magic number here is if you can keep Oregon State within 5 runs, you've got a chance. I really do, because that is a team that is clutch at the plate, the right moment, has a lot of guys in the heart of the order that can do damage. I'd be a little concerned about that. But as far as Louisville scoring runs, I'm not as concerned about that per se. I think that it'll probably be closer to a slugfest that you see in game 1. And the thing is, those will be your game 1 starters. So those will be your best starters.
Yeah.
So Patrick Forbes is just going to have to show up and say, listen, I'm an MLB ready prospect. I believe he can be a first round pick.
You should have seen my reaction off cam when Dusty mentioned that if he's thinking Forbes could keep him within 5 runs. But I would hope a guy like Forbes is competitive and is as much of a pedigree as he's built up to this point. I don't want to give up more than 3 runs.
Yeah, I think Forbes can go out there. He does have a tendency to get himself in some trouble, and he usually has 1 to 2 innings where he lets a lot of guys get on base and maybe loses control a little bit. He's going to have to be poised in Omaha, because that's the kind of pitcher that feeds off of his own adrenaline.
Yeah.
And that can be a blessing and that can be a curse. And so Forbes, he has the potential to shut anybody down on any given day. Oregon State's a really tough task to open up against, but that's why you're sending Forbes to the hill, because that's the guy you trust, has the stuff, can shut him down.
Mm-hmm.
I just am always cautiously optimistic. And sometimes in situations like this, I mean, you have to look at every team of the 8 has earned their way here.
Absolutely.
And that includes the other Kentucky team too.
Well, Murray State, I've yet to see what the books have for their odds. Not to say that they're not worth rooting for.
Yes.
You always got to have a Cinderella at this point in this round of a tournament style competition. I'm just like, What do you
How have
see
they
that?
done it?
Well, they did it.
Yeah.
Now I'm just curious,
Yeah.
like, is their talent going to carry them any point past this next round in Omaha? I wish I knew the answer. We're just
Yeah.
gonna have to wait to find out and see.
They're running around with their head on fire. Offense is the key for them too,
Okay.
because the way that they were able to take down Duke, and for that matter, Ole Miss, it was a slugfest every game, right? Like their pitching has to survive. I think that's the difference. Louisville's pitching has shown that they can shut you down. They don't always do it, but they've shown that they can do
Mhm.
that. Murray State has not proven that. Murray State has proven they can either keep up or out hit you. And lately, it has been somehow, some way out hitting you. And that is what's punched their ticket to this. So Murray State's going to have to score a lot of runs if they want a chance to move on in this thing. They're facing a really tough UCLA team to open things up. And win or lose, they're going to have to face either LSU or Arkansas. And so there's no easy out there. I definitely think most people would agree that on paper, Murray State got the harder draw between U of L and Murray, just because when you're on the right side of this bracket and you have a nationally ranked seed with UCLA, Arkansas, and LSU, with the two highest being Arkansas and LSU, that's a tough draw.
Which they're going to try and knock each other out, or at least give each other a leg up on the first game already.
And Murray that might be a little advantageous to them, is that LSU and Arkansas might beat each other up a little bit, and so Murray won't be facing, whether they win or lose, they won't be facing Arkansas or LSU's number one, right? Like that won't be happening. But with that being said, I mean, the offense is going to have to continue to do what they're doing, and who knows? I mean, this team has become incredibly hot, clutch hitting, a lot of power, displayed a lot of power. I mean, the home run ball is going to be impactful for them. They do rely on the home run ball to drive in runs, doubles to the gap. They've got guys that step up to the plate, and you're like, I don't know where this kid came from, but this dude can mash. And there's like 5 guys in that order for Murray State that can do that. As for pitching, it's going to be tricky. I mean, pitching is going to really have to limit the damage. I think that's the easiest way to put it. There's a difference between shut it down, limit the damage. They're going to have to limit the damage. If they can hold UCLA to 7-8 runs, they might have a chance as far as in the entirety of the game. I mean, it's hard to say because that's a good team overall that UCLA has.
And all good teams at this point when you've gotten that far in Omaha. All right. So I don't keep you that much longer because you've got your eyes also on our hometown soccer club matchup, and getting to know the team with Lou City. Dusty, I was going to ask you about, do you want to call it a burgeoning rivalry?
Sure.
But these stakes much lower. But what are you looking forward to in tonight's matchup? Lou City versus Rhode Island FC.
Yeah, it's interesting. You talk about kind of a newer program, newer organization showing up, and I don't think Lou City had the best end result to their last season, thanks to the hands of Rhode Island, a team that I don't think many people saw coming in the first place. It's interesting in the USL because rivalries will come, rivalries will go, but this one feels like it's starting up, as you kind of mentioned. Key players not necessarily returning. I mean, Wilson Harris is always the one that comes to mind first for me with Lou City, but that doesn't mean, I mean, the core of this roster is still there. You can't tell me that Ray Serrano doesn't remember what happened last year, right? And so there are guys on this team that will look back on that, and there is a presence, there's a thought in the back of the head. You can't, if you're an athlete, if you're competitive, you don't forget those kind of losses, right? And Lou City last year, of course, claims the Players' Shield, and they don't finish the job. And Rhode Island, a team that nobody really necessarily saw coming, knocks them out. There's some revenge coming.
I was going to say, not apples to apples with that Warriors team when we saw they just could not finish that amazing regular season with the chip. Again, I'm not comparing perhaps the standard with which the Warriors, that was already a record-breaking year with the wins they amassed. But this is a young club in Lou City. We saw like don't sneeze at that accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
You were able to do that last season. You want to build off of that success, but look who came to spoil the party.
Right.
So, I mean, to your point, if I'm a professional athlete, I'm not going, like I'm an elephant. I'm not going to forget how bitter that tasted after the fact.
Yeah, there's gonna be some revenge out tonight. I will say, we're still sitting here in middle of June, and so the stakes may not necessarily be as high per se. And you're talking about a Wednesday match. I mean, it's definitely a different feel to it. Doesn't mean that the players aren't thinking about that, right? Like I know the stakes are not as high, and I know the situation's not the same, but and you get faces, as I mentioned, that come and go. Those guys that were there last year on both sides very much know the mental on the other side, right? And so that'll play a role, and those two will get going tonight at 8. And then, of course, you also have the NBA Finals, so that's just
Dusty.
another avenue.
Too much sports. I mean,
It's-
most fans are going to say absolutely not. You want the opposite.
It's
more
been
sports,
crazy.
but-
It's just absolutely crazy what's going on right now, and you
But it
talk
is
about
in
too
our-
much sports. There's a lot. You got the high school playoffs, too.
Yes,
the
and it's
state
in our
tournament.
backyard. It's in
Yeah.
our backyard.
Yeah, state tournaments right here. You have Indiana literally hosting the finals. I mean, this is crazy time. Who would have seen all of this coming together? I mean, if you told me back on January the 1st that Louisville baseball, Murray State baseball would be in the College World Series, the Indiana Pacers would be in the NBA Finals, and on top of that, we would still be talking high school baseball, soccer is at an elite level. Like this is crazy. And I will say my final point. We didn't get a chance to really talk about the Belmont from this past week.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. How about sovereignty?
The
doing what he was able
rivalry
to do?
and if they were two heavyweight boxers, you want match 3
Sure.
to determine who's the winner once and for all.
Yeah.
In this case, sovereignty wins out.
Sovereignty wins out, and then you actually do have MMA coming this weekend with the LFA too. So I mean, I could keep you going here, Jose. Your whole show is just going to be me ranting about all the things that we have going on.
Where's
here.
the time gone? Where's the time gone?
That's how this is going, man. But like I tell you what, like it is a very exciting time to be a sports fan in Louisville. It's very clear. There's posts out there that are like, which program is the best overall sports program in the country? And I mean, Louisville's name belongs right in the discussion with a lot of other programs right now, because you talk about the way the baseball program is doing. That's one thing. The football program continues to rise.
Basketball's rebirth.
Yes, basketball's rebirth. How about Jeff Walls taking the women back to the NCAA tournament again? Jada Curry doing what she, of course, did, former Wave intern, by the way, against my Horned Frogs. And then when you look at it at the end of the day, there are volleyball program. I know that Danny Busboom Kelly is out, but to go to the national championship, hosted in their own backyard.
That's right.
I mean, this calendar year, as you will, of 2024, 2025, has been ridiculous. It has been ridiculous. And not to ignore what UK has done or IU, because UK was in the College World Series last year. Basketball, of course, with Pope has improved, and they go on as deep as they did in the NCAA tournament. The women's program there has been revitalized. IU is going to see, I think, a revitalization in basketball as they saw in football. We could talk about this forever, but
Do you think DeVries has that potential?
I think he does.
Okay.
I do. I mean, we're gonna have to wait and see. But when you have those letters IU on your jersey or any logo out there like that,
Pressure.
the pressure's there. But you also know that there's going to be the potential for success there. And then, I mean, how can you ignore what IU did in football as well, right? Like Signetti turning that program around the way he did, and they should be in the run for the college football playoff again this upcoming year. And unlike what some certain national pundits may have said, IU definitely deserved to be there. And that's all I will say on that topic. But yes, we have a lot.
I mean, you could tell them, just show them the end record
Yes.
after the season,
Yes.
even before they got to the conference championship. I'm like, do they not deserve heck a berth to beat it out to get into the last?
I don't need any of the
branch?
biases out there that are beyond my pay grade, but I will say that IU was disrespected nationally for absolutely no reason. And once again, there's no bias there, because that's another story. I may or may not have some pettiness involved, though, from how my own Frogs were treated back in their run up until the national title.
Because we are only but human after
only
all,
but
right,
human,
Dusty?
Hey,
Appreciate your time.
appreciate you, man.
Dusty's, of course, going to stick around for Wave News at 11, so hope you join us whenever those highlights come in. A lot of highlights. We'll see how much you'll be able to fit in that
There's
block,
so
Dusty.
many highlights. There's so many highlights. Very little time, but we're going to make it work. And catch me at 11 and catch me with Jose.
That's right.
My man.
All right, everybody. I think that's going to do it for us for this segment of Wave Extra. Appreciate you joining us. A very spirited discussion, but when you have someone like Dusty guiding you along the way, it just wakes up your passion. If you were feeling a little low after the coffee wore off for the day, going to be so much exciting stuff to talk about.
Bring it back, baby. That's the goal.
Thanks,
Appreciate you, bro.